take a look at creating some sheets. So you do already have sheets here in the template, but we're also going to adjust these. All of these in the template are set to a 30 by 42 title block, and we're going to change that. So if you can come in here, you're gonna have to do this on every project every time. So bookmark this video, save it so you can come back and reference it. I also recommend watching the videos multiple times. But for this one, let's go ahead and right click and we're going to say select, and that's on the title block. You've selected the title block. You can see it's E130 by 42. That's too big for the class and what we're going to do. So we want to select all instances in entire project. That's going to select the title block on every one of these sheets. And we're going to change that to D22 by 34. All right, now you notice for the floor plan that it now doesn't fit, but that's okay. We're going to adjust that and we're going to talk about the crop regions. You might have to go through, you might have to adjust views. You know, if you're using those sheets for the assignment, you might not be using these sheets for the assignment. Each assignment will detail out what you're including. That if you are using the sheets, you're going to have to double check them with that title block and make sure the views fit. But we're going to use the 22 by 34 size for this class. So to get my floor plan to fit on here, first of all, we have what's called kind of like our sheet space here and then our views. All right, so this view, remember, is, I can always check here, right here as well. If I double click here, that will take me just into the view. That's the view that we've been working on so far. But if I need to adjust it here on the sheet, I can double click it to activate the view, and I can actually work in my model here on the sheet, just as if I was in this view over here. All right, so you can activate those views on a sheet and work within them. To deactivate, you can either right click and say deactivate view. So right now you'll see the title block is grayed out, right? I can't get back to the title block. So right click, deactivate view, or an easy double click. If I double click into the view, it will activate. If I double click outside of the view, it will deactivate. Okay, so double click, really easy to navigate back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and double click into the view. I do want to make some modifications here. Now in the Revit 2025 template, they have a new thing set up with these scope boxes. For the sake of our class, we've talked about how we can adjust them and dragging them, but we're not going to get into them extensively. They are for much more complex projects that you would, use in the office later on. So for this, we are actually going to scroll down on the floor plan here on the left-hand side, and under scope box where it says views overall, we are going to say none. All right, and something that is also going to do is, before doing that, you can see when I click on the crop region that it looks like it's locked. I can't adjust it, but when I change that scope box to none, now when I click on the crop region, you'll see that I can adjust this. All right, and the important thing about being able to adjust this crop region is really bringing it down so it's much smaller on the sheet, and not going outside the extents of the title block. Okay, you always want to make sure that your view is not outside of the title block, because that can cause some printing issues. All right, so now the crop region is much smaller. If I want to turn the crop region off, I can do that as well. I can hide that. There's also a setting to have it not print, but I typically turn mine off. And then for the scope box, I'm just going to right click and say hide in view. We can also control that in visibility graphics, but we'll talk about that more when we get to the visibility graphics. So I'm going to say hide in view and just get rid of that scope box. All right, so if I want to deactivate that view, I will double click again. Now you can see my view. There's a couple annotations down here. I'm actually going to double click and just delete those too. I would normally put those on a sheet, not in the view. So it's interesting they did that, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about those for this class. So you can delete those every time. All right, now I'm going to double click again. You can see how much smaller my view is here on the sheet. And keep in mind that you have this is your view title down here. So this is going to have the name of your view and the scale. The scale reads automatically. And if the scale were to change, so I have the view selected here, and the properties, if that scale were to change and it were to get larger, you'll see that that updates automatically in the view title. If I want to change the title of my view, and if I want to move this, I need to move it back. These two, when you select the view, they move together. So, all right, so you can see that view title went down outside of the title block, which we do not want. But to move them, if these are selected together still, when I select the view, it selects both. So I'm going to set my view first. Then, very important, I'm going to deselect and then just select the view title on its own. And then I can drag that to where I want it to go on the sheet. Okay, so really important. Remember that. Can get really frustrating really easy, but when you click on the view, it'll move both together. To select, move the view title independently, deselect, and select just the view title to move that independent of the view. Also, if you want to rename this, click on the view once. You see how these lines became blue here? That will allow you can adjust the length of this here. And you can also click on there and, oops, I just hit delete. But you can click on that and update, I'm just gonna say first floor plan, update the view title as well. All right, so that's for a view that's already on a sheet. But if I have other views, let's say want to put my interior elevations on a sheet, okay? And these are a bunch of sheets. We're not going to use the civil, electrical, you know, any of this stuff. So you can leave them in here, or if you want to, you can. I'm going to hold down Shift and select them all, and you can delete them out if you want, or you can just leave them in there and just don't print them. But if I want to create other sheets here, I'm going to go to my View tab and then to Sheet. I want to select my title block. So remember, we changed this title block from the E1 to the D. So I'm going to make sure I select D22 by 34. We want to make sure we're using that size for every assignment throughout the class. And then I'm going to say OK. And now I have a new sheet. To place views on the sheet, it's very straightforward here. I will just go to my project browser and I'm going to click and drag. All right, so I'm going to click, hold down, drag, and then release. And then that's going to allow me to kind of bounce it around the sheet. And then I will click to place. All right, I'm going to pull out the next one here. And Revit will help you line these up. So it's going to line up the levels for you. So I'm just going to line it up, get those little blue lock lines in place, and click, drag, and then a click to place. And one more here. All right, let's go ahead and throw on some 3D views for good measure. Where are my, I guess I just had that one camera view that we can put on here. And there we go. Now I have some views on my sheet. As far as the title block goes, to adjust the information within there, you can just click on the title block, and then you can click into the text there. You can put your name here, the assignment number, and then this would be like the sheet name. So it's going to be a floor plan, and then this will be, like I-100. That information will, the sheet numbers will be in the assignment, so you can see those, as well as sheet titles. Your name, of course, is consistent, and the assignment is just relative to the assignment number that we are working on.